Hello again, and welcome back to the iPhone app creation tutorial series. Believe it or not, this is the 14th video. We have gone far in the last 3 weeks, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. We'll go ahead and continue our learning and go click on the Xcode icon from the toolbar, open your book tracker tutorial, and as we always do, run the app to know where we are. Okay. So I left you with a certain exercise last time around when we did the alternate cell coloring. We added a segment control. We learned about the value changed. We also learned about how to get the sender value within that value chain and using that to reference properties rather than creating an IB outlet. A sleek way to do that so that you can write less code, which is always good. So today we are going to see that real functions. When I really click on this, or it by default comes here, it only shows the book which are read, to be read, or read, right? So I think what we are going to do first is uh, just to I know that when you're creating this book we didn't realize what we have kept where. So let's try to do this. We are going to print here, instead of book name, the status, and see what values we have. So this will give you a quick read of what we have, right? So we have the first two as currently reading, which should uh, completely come in the first step, but the red should go in the last step. Currently reading, currently, again, this should come in the first step. To be read, again in the to be read category. The red should be in the red category. Currently reading and to be read. So we have all values, right? Quick mind teasers. If you want to print both the values together, is it possible? I think so. So we can say books index path dot row dot, what was the name? Book name, right? And then if you concatenate the screen, the strings, these are strings now, with plus, it should work. And then you have to force it because it is assuming that you have a value, because you cannot concatenate an empty string. So that's the reason saying that, hey, do you want to give a value? So what we'll do it in two ways. One, I'll force it just to showcase that I want it, and second is I'll give a default. If nothing is there, I'll say do like this. That's the right way to do it. In fact, okay, I'll force it for now. It's asking either status as blank or nil, so I'll do it like this for now. I'll forcing it, so it should add. I also want a space in between, so what I should do is give a double quotes and again concatenate, but this time give a space. Notice that it has not asked me to force this because it knows there is a value. This doesn't know what the book will return, hence the book array will return, hence the force fitting that we need to do. Okay. You can give space, or let's say we give double triple quotes like this, and then the status. Okay, triple colon like this, right? So it's a quick trick to showcase multiple value in one string. You can say that you are getting all those values nicely. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's keep it like this. Instead of this, I give space, and I will teach you attributed string as well, where you can modify, beautify a string in a chapter coming up. But for now, let's focus on the job in hand. So if you recall in the last one, we had this segmented view control. It tells you 1, 0, or 2, but that's not how it is stored, right? We have either currently reading, read, or to be read, and we need to use those values to showcase what we have, right? So in other words, for 0, I need to use 0, I need to use currently reading. For 1, I used to use to be read, and for 2, I need to use read, right? And these values are here, if you recall, right here. I'll just copy it for the time being, just from a reference standpoint. It will be easy for us to refer when we are here. So we will go ahead and paste that somewhere here, only for reference, so that we can use the right names, and I'm putting in it in remark column. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to teach you about switch first before I tell you how the query has to be changed. What is switch? Switch is like if then else. So you can use if or switch alternatively, but switch gives a much more readable format. So you can switch on certain value and take certain action. So let's say switch and I press the enter key, it gives the entire syntax here. So I'm going to switch on sender dot selected segmented index. And the pattern is if it is 0 you want to do something, it has default which is required, and then you have case as 1 you want to do something, and default will do something. The code will go here as well, right? Okay, now let's do the code. Don't worry about the error at this point in time. So if it is 0 what you want to do, I will say that let's define a variable which is here. I'll define which is the status variable. So I say var status, and you know that it's a string, right? So it's a string, and var status string is equal to, by default I will make it, the first index is always, we are making currently reading if you recall, right? So it is always currently reading, and if someone clicks on it, then status will always become currently reading. Makes sense? If someone clicks on second one, status will become to be read, right? That's what we have done. And if it is default, which is 0, 1, you know, there's only 3 values possible. So when it is 2, it will come here. You want to make it red. And we will say, hey, we have done this. Now let's print status, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So switch is like if then else. Instead of giving condition, it's much more readable based on the value we have changed and seen how things are going to happen. Okay, so let's quickly run this. Okay, so if I click on to be read, what will happen? It will become 1. It will come here, status will be to be read, and it will print the status as to be read. Brilliant, right? If I click on read is number 2, 0 and 1, it will not satisfy, it will come to default, which will be read. If I go back to reading, it will be case 0, it will be currently reading. Okay, we have the values now. So for the corresponding 0, 1, 2, we have got the right values, but now we have to query. You remember how we queried here, right? So every time the segment value changes, I have to query accordingly, and I have to pass on the status to it, right? So first of all, I have to modify this load records. How do I modify it? So I'm going to teach you a few things here, which is like how do you pass value to a function. So this was an empty function. It now will take a status. So the way to do it is you can do it in 2 ways. You can define a variable named status, and you can give, just like you define a variable, you can say colon, and you say this is of type string, which basically means that whenever you're calling load records, you have to pass a status. Moment you did that, there was an error here. Why? Because you are calling the view did load in view appear and view did load, right? And you're not passing anything, right? So whenever you're calling for the first time, you know that that string is always going to be the first one, which is currently reading, right? So that's where you land up to. So you can say currently reading. And here also you can say currently reading. Okay, so it has successfully passed on to this, but there is an error here, and I can remove this error by 2 ways. One is when you give a function with a variable without the dash in front, like this dash, then giving that variable name is also important. I usually like to do that, and you can fix this. You'll see that status is currently reading, so you know that what it is asking. Make sense? But if you, and let me delete this again just to showcase what I basically mean. Delete this again. Let the error come up. Okay, the error is here. So if I now add an underscore in front of status and I build this again, I'm sorry, underscore, I have to give a space, and then build this again. You see it is taken. So this giving the variable name becomes optional. I personally like giving the name, so I would build this again, Command B, and it should give the error. And instead of me typing, I'll say fix it because it knows what to put. So I know exactly what I'm passing. All right, so we have done that. Now what I'll do is here, after the status is changed, I have to call load records, right? That's what we need to do. So I say load records, and I'll pass on the value of the status, right? So whatever the status said, it is read, to be read, currently it will be passed. So what we have successfully done so far is we are able to learn switch. We learned about how to get values, and we like the status. We have learned about optional and required protocol values, and we have changed the already existing load record to get the right values, and we are calling load records once again. But calling load records once again won't do anything until we change the load records, right? So what we need to do is we will over here do a change which is known as predicate, which I told you last time. So what we have done is we got the app delegate, we got the context, and we defined that we want to do a fetch request which is of type book, right? So I need to do one more thing here, which is known as predicate. So define a variable. It could be any variable name. So since we are putting a conditional predicate, I will name it as predicate. Say equals to, and define a ns predicate type, and you open the bracket. It has different format. The one you can take is this one. Okay, so format, let me tell you how it works. Let me delete all of those. Format, see, it is a must require, hence the format name is required. You put double quotes, and these are syntax that you need to learn. So what you're saying is that get me all the records where the status equals to whatever this status is, right? So if you go back to your book, the variable name is status. Do you see here? That's the name I'm using, status. Okay. If both the status are confusing, it give a different name, but both the names are same here, which is totally fine. So you're saying status equals to anything between double quotes is always a constant. So I need to replace the value with what I'm passing here. So the way to do the replacement is this syntax is a percentage ampersand, which basically means that replace anything that will be passed as an argument to this. And the argument, first one is status. There is only one we are using, and close the bracket. Let me, don't worry about that warning. This is because we have not used the predicate so far. So the way to do it is define a variable. It could be any name. I'm giving it the name predicate. Then you're defining a condition. The way to define a condition, ns predicate, and it is a format. We are saying that the status column or attribute, which is in the table here, status, should be equal to, that's how you compare, always to equal to a value which will come from status. So that's a way to replace this is percentage ampersand, and put a comma, and then the status here, and this will be replaced over here. Okay, and that value will be taken accordingly. Once you have done the predicate, you have to say the fetch request, it has a value known as predicate, should be equal to this predicate. So this condition, I think the fetch request has a condition, which is this predicate. Now whenever it is retrieving, it will only retrieve the status that you're passing. Okay, there's one more thing we need to do, which you already know, that once you load records, you have to always reload the table, right? So the table name is, what's the table name? Is book table view dot reload data. Okay, so what will happen is the first time view did load will be called, this will be called a currently reading. It will come as a currently, and say get me all the books where status is equal to currently reading. You have already assigned that to the fetch request, and then it will get only those books which are the currently reading, right? Not the other ones. And then next time when you change the tab, let's say it becomes to be read, it will send that to load records. It will reload again where the status will be equal to be read, and then we're reloading the table, it will only load those records. Should work, right? Let's go ahead and see whether it does or not. I think I can, am I still printing it? I don't think so. I'm printing it. Okay, perfect. So switch print has been deleted. So let's go ahead and run this. See, for your purpose, I'm printing this, but I'm going to remove it for now. Currently reading, only the currently reading is coming, right? If I click on to be read, only to be read is coming. If I click on read, only read is coming, right? So to purify this little further down, what I'll do is I will delete the status part from here. Okay, and run this again. So you get a clean book records, right? These are all currently reading. This is to be read, and this you have already read. Excellent. So that's all for today. Hope you found it interesting and you learned few things, also how to do code manipulation. I would sincerely appreciate if you're liking what you're seeing. Please share with your friends, colleagues, and people who you think may benefit from learning. It is absolutely free, and please do subscribe. That's the only way I can get these videos coming up to you. Thank you again. Thanks for listening. Bye.